Welcome to the official Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society's podcast. I'm your host, Barnaby, and you're listening to Whispers from the Dark. Of Whispers from the Dark. I, of course, am your host, Barnaby, and today we are back talking with Jay Bachochin from Finding Jay. This is part 2 of our 2-part episode, and we are talking to you, Jay. Welcome to the show.
Hey,
again.
Thanks for having me on again.
So we're talking to you again to remind everyone because we have the Marinette Menomoniee Bigfoot Convention coming up on June 4th, and you, of course, are going to be there. You have DVDs, and you'll have a booth and share stories and stuff with everyone there. So what else you got at your booth, man?
Yeah, and absolutely. Well, I mean, the cool thing is, and right now I have Blu-rays available, no DVDs, because it is a 2-hour-long documentary. Even when I was consulting with Linda Godfrey, who was doing her documentary, she wanted to keep it under 60 minutes so that they can put these into these festivals of documentaries.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what I'm after. I wanted to tell my story, and actually my first cut of Finding Jay turned out to be longer than the Avengers movies. It was like 3 hours, and I cut everything I could to still make it coherent. But it's right at that 2-hour mark, but it does fly by. It's not all boring stuff. It's actually a really intriguing film. But with that, to try to be able to compress that imagery onto a DVD, which is your standard definition, less than 480, it would have been kind of pixelated. So it is a Blu-ray. And a lot of people that I do sell these to go, "Oh, I don't have a Blu-ray." And I'm like, what year do we live in? That's just my opinion, because now you have 4K. But with that, I do have it streaming on Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm.
But I always tell people, who knows when Amazon Prime is going to say, "Okay, Jay, your run is done here," and they just take it off. I mean, that hasn't happened yet, but if it doesn't, I have limited amount of Blu-rays that I'll be selling. But what else do I have there? I'm also a graphic artist, and I work in printing, and I have really cool vinyl stickers for your vehicle that you can put on. They're not gaudy, they're really cool looking. So I have plenty of those. But as far as that's pretty much it. I like to go to these conventions and events really to meet people, to get their stories, or if they want to hear some of mine. I think it's more about the connecting part of it. So pretty much that's what I'll have when I'm up there on June 4th.
Cool. Awesome. Well, since we're on the topic of where you're going to be, do you have any other events and stuff coming up as well?
Right now, besides June 4th, and a lot of them start getting set up in September, October, Van Meter again festival. Then I gotta check my website. I kind of just I just kind of agree to these.
Yeah, I know how that goes.
Put them on the website so that if I forget what they are, I go to it. Just like these podcasts, what I do is I put, once these are posted, I'll put a link on my website to where they can come to find this, of all the different podcasts I've been on, to check it out. Because sometimes I'm always like, is that really necessary? I do that, and it helps because I'm such an organized person, but at the same time, how much do you want to listen to me? You know what I mean? Or anybody. It's like, if I want to listen to somebody, I'll do that. But I do encourage people to listen, because there's always different pieces of information per, there might be a lot of repeat, but like this, we're covering on a topic that a lot of people don't like to talk about, Bigfoot and the paranormal aspect of it. So definitely, I recommend this one. Watch this one.
Definitely. So, back to Bigfoot and the paranormal. We were talking on the last episode about a lot of the weird stuff of the interdimensional or the lights and stuff, and we're not going to get back into that now as much. Go listen to the first episode from last week. But
Yeah.
so the cool thing that I always tell everybody about CAPS, Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society, is that each member of our team kind of tries to focus in on their own set of research. Like I do cryptids, then there's one that does research. There's our skeptic. There's an empath, a medium, and so on and so forth and stuff. But we all tend to look at these different phenomenon with our own set of glasses, I guess. Where we're coming from. And by doing that, we have come across fairy lore. And in this fairy lore, there is a story of the woman in white. And the woman in white is supposed to go through the woods, and she travels with a large hairy man and these candelas, or balls of light or energy. And when we were talking about that on the last episode, I'm thinking, this is right where we're going from and stuff like that. So I wanted to know, have you heard of that story or any of that mythology?
Yeah. Oh no, definitely. I have heard of it. Of course, Adam Benedict, who does the Pine Barrens Institute,
Okay.
up in Janesville. He's also another open-minded skeptic, interested in it, but almost has to see it to believe it type of deal. He does a lot of extensive research, and he has shared exactly that, what you were telling me, that story about that, the will of the wisp, of going like that, because as some people would put it, if you are a paranormal ghost chaser investigator and you see those, it's automatically a ghost light or a spirit light. If you're into cryptids, it could be, what other possibilities could Bigfoot or Dogman manifest into? Of course, if you're into ufology, you're looking for little gray aliens out there too, which actually would be pretty frightening. I don't know if I'd be more scared seeing a Bigfoot or, a skinny gray alien just looking at me through the woods. But yeah, no, those are definitely a lot of the possibilities. And, I'll go on the line and say, I have no idea. I've documented them. People that have been with me have seen them as well. Where does that go? It's kind of like catching an EVP, electronic voice phenomenon. You play that for somebody, and it's like, oh, okay. They hear, did you hear it? It said Bob. And they listen. It's like, wow, it does say Bob. What do you know? And I'm not knocking that, because there are a lot of clear EVPs. And I've actually caught one that's on my YouTube site from 2009 at Ohio State Reformatory. A clear one. They would say it was a Class A. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is, well, what is it? What have you learned from it? Where you could go to every haunted house, to investigate and catch EVPs, but what's the end point of being able to say what that is? Or do people just accept there are people that have passed on and that's what it is, and they're okay with that, and that's fine for them? But for me, it's just the beckoning call to get these answers. And so these lights out there, jumping back to the lights, I can say I've seen them. I've seen some of the behaviors of them, and I have no idea what they are. So maybe if I could connect with Bigfoot out there, I know it's crazy Jay talking, that I would get those answers, that I would get them. Not that I could pass them on to you or your viewers, because secondhand story. Jay's crazy, or people believe him. And it's the point to where when people ask me about it, I always say, you know what you got to do is go out there and hunt the truth. Go out, discover it for yourself. I think it's got to be personal for you to understand what they are. So as far as the lights, I have no idea what those could be yet, even though we've heard those stories about the woman in white leading a hairy man around. I mean, that's crazy, right? Or is it not crazy?
The woman
Yeah.
in white itself is a very interesting phenomenon. I don't know how much you've looked into that, but you have the woman in white is supposedly like this Fey mythology, and she's typically found like bodies of water. You start
Hmm.
out with the woman or the maiden of the mists and stuff like that, and then as the body of water, the well or what have you, gets older, she becomes the woman in white, and then as it evolves farther, she becomes the old hag. And so you have
Yeah.
this chronology of, depending on how old the body of water is that she's a guardian of, that this is the spirit that's there. So maybe, we were talking about, maybe if Bigfoot is staying by bodies of water or whatever, that's why these are seen. A lot of people see like the woman in white crossing the road. You have the hitchhiking ghosts or the woman in white ghosts, and she's always typically like seen like wet, like
Hmm.
in the urban legends and stuff we're talking now.
Hmm.
The woman in white is seen at the side of the road, either bloody, like the bloody brides of Stevens
Hmm.
Point and the Bloody Bride Bridge and stuff. Well, here you have a bridge, you have a body of water, and you have this same entity. It's possible that these things are all connected.
It's even crazy because there's been a report of seeing the woman in white with a hairy man, and the only prints that were left were huge bird feet. You know what I mean? It's crazy enough to say, you could tell me anything, and I would not sit there and necessarily just believe it. I'm not that gullible. But however, I have an open mind of the things that we don't know. I'm not so closed minded that these things can't exist. Anything. Again, you were talking about, while it was funny to hear a woman in white having bird feet, look at, like you were saying in the last episode about the platypus.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on, a duckbill on a mammal laying eggs with a pouch. Um, that's unheard of. It's just something that we haven't uh, understood or comprehended yet. At least
Mm-hmm.
that's how I look at all these weird tales.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, like I always say, you can't. I can't go out and tell you, well, I've seen a Bigfoot. Bigfoot exists, but no, fairies don't exist. Who am I to tell you that? Who am I to say that when I'm going out looking for all this weird stuff that supposedly exists, that if you saw, this portal open and a bunch of fairies fly out, how can I tell you that your story is any less believable than saying that I saw an 8-foot hairy man in the woods? We
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have to have that open skepticism of saying, well, look at your source, get a little background on the person telling you the story and see if they're, mentally stable at least. I mean all of us are, a little weird that we're doing this to begin with, but, is there something that is making them hallucinate, drugs
Right.
or something like that they're on, or are they legitimately telling you the truth? And then, well, they obviously saw something, so what is it?
Yeah. And the thing is, and you're right on the right track, because the thing is, if you hear it once, a story like this, it's crazy. You hear it a second time from somebody who's not even associated with that person, that comes up with something just as crazy, but in a different part. There could be a connection.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've actually heard of little people in the kettle moraine, little, like 6 inches, or that's creepy. And I've heard a few stories that of some a stable mind, obviously. So these were just stories, but two other people that I've talked to that don't even know each other told me about their stories when they were younger and what they saw. So it goes to saying, one person says there's little people, little Lilliputians, right? Is that what they're calling them?
Yeah, Gulliver's Travels.
Road,
Yeah.
yeah, the short. Um, but then you have two other stories that date 20 years, 25 years ago that share the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden now I've got like three different reports of little people and they don't know each other. Um, and their stories kind of pan out a little bit. And again, it's hard for me because I'm like, I'm looking for something that's 10 foot tall, 4 foot, 4.5 foot wide. And I'm not going to find that. I'm going to find a little person sitting on a branch talking to me.
Mm-hmm.
What's creepier than that? Um, but it goes to what you were saying about the fairies. People say that have seen them. Did you ever see that YouTube video? Somebody capturing, it was like I don't know, a dad and his daughter. I think it was in the UK, and he was filming her, and they kind of pan the camera up, and all of a sudden this thing just comes out of the tree, which is weird because I know today's technology with CGI is incredible, but they've tried to break this thing down to saying it's fake, it's CGI, and they couldn't. But it's still hard for me to believe it. A fairies, a little person flying. So the stories I've heard about the kettle having little people didn't have wings, but then what are they? Is that their definition of trolls, or I don't know. But it's those things I take into account all the time. I just put it in the database, pop it up here.
Mm-hmm.
So when people say, "You're going to go squatching tonight?" And I'm like, I don't squatch. I hike. That's what I do. I hike, and that's it. If something weird happens, I'm hoping I can capture it, learn from it, or two, nothing happens, and I'm out with friends and we have a great time. It's a win-win situation. So really, I don't know what I'm looking for out there anymore. It's little people, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot. You're talking about portals. 2016, I went out with two friends to one of my areas, and we got to our point to where we're going to start really hiking into the woods. And they stopped, and they're kind of looking to the right of me and hearing something. And it was right around twilight, so it wasn't dark. You could still see the sky, summer sky, but the sun wasn't up. It was set, so it was twilight. And I look at the canopy of trees in front of me, and I just I spin my head forward to my left and turn around. And as I turn around, I can't give you the exact dimensions, but there was because I knew where the branch was on the tree, I'm going to say like a 12 by 12 shimmer. Like, it's almost like as if your eyes went from a dark room to a light room where they flicker. I don't know if yours do or my eyes are just messed up, but going from dark to bright, you get that effect. Mm-hmm. And that's what I saw behind me, but it was centralized into a circle. And I didn't believe what I was seeing. I didn't have a body cam at the time, and I'm just looking at it, and I'm like blinking my eyes. So I look back to the right to see if I'm seeing that same pattern. Nothing. And I go further right, nothing. And then I go back to the spot, and it goes shimmer, shimmer, gone. I have no idea what I saw at all. And again, it's one of those things that I don't really talk about or will put in my film or anything, because it's all hearsay. And it's just, if Jay wants to believe there's a portal there, there's a portal, and he's going to see it. If he believes Bigfoot's out there, he's going to see it, even if it's misidentification. If he thinks there's ghost lights or aliens, he's going to see them. So, capturing the evidence is great, but it all depends on what your end game is with some of this stuff out there.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely, for you and me that have done stuff like this and gone out in the woods and all kinds of weird stuff, you experience all these things. And most of it just gets cut even from my episodes because, one, what do you do with it? It's so random. Like some of the stuff that we've experienced in Burlington, up at the Hayden Adventure, it doesn't, like when you of course understand when you're making a documentary. You said your thing was like as long as the end game, right? And you had to cut it way down. Well, when you're making this, you want to write a story. Whatever that story happens to be. You need a beginning. You have to say, this is why we're going there. This is what we're looking for. These are some of the things we've done, and this is the evidence that we got. Mm-hmm. Well, along that story, other stuff happens.
Right.
And it does not fit into that storyline. And at the conventions, when people come up and say, well, have you experienced this? Yep. Well, why wasn't that in the episode? Well, because it had nothing to do with Bigfoot, and the episode was Bigfoot, or the episode was fairy, or this and that.
Right.
And there's so much. There's so many times that we've had this stuff happen where it's like, I'll give you an example, and I haven't told anybody this yet at all, aside from people involved. Heightened adventure. We were talking, or you were talking about little people. Up at the Heightened adventure, it was muddy on the sides of the roads, and we were setting up trail cameras, right? And I found a series of, I think it was 3 footprints, about 3 inches long, shoe prints, treads. The toe shape goes back, and then there's a heel, little shoes, 3 inches long. And I said to Craig, I said, do you have any? And I mean, this was 2020. The Heightened Adventure wasn't open aside from us being out there. And we had one tour come through that year. So there wasn't, this is private property. It has a locked gate and stuff. And, Craig has a granddaughter and stuff. And I said, well, how big is she? Oh, no, she's bigger than that. And this is, 40 acres. This is a road that cuts back through the whole property. And this is about several hundred feet into it. Why did you get out and stop? Why was there a little foot walk? I have no idea. I have pictures of them. I have video of them. Me and Craig sit there and look at them and talk about them. I don't know what they were, but there was little shoe prints about 3 inches long, 3 of them, and they came across the ridge and then jumped down and then kept going. I have no idea what that was.
Well, I'm going to help validate it because Adam, Benedict, and I were out in the kettle January of last year in drifts of snow, and we came across 3-inch little, almost like little feet, and it made no sense because they look like little feet. But even if you want to take a baby's foot, but a baby's foot, you put it in a shoe, it's round, and this looked like a human footprint, but 3 inches, real small. And I document it for what it's worth, and I think we did talk about the little people while we were out there. We might have laughed a little bit after that.
They don't like that.
And, no, they don't, because after that, Adam kept trudging up the kettle. It was one of the 300-foot kettles, and not a straight down. It's you're going up, and we had to go across a fallen tree, fallen down, and he went around it and went under these briar and got up through there. That's the only way to really do that. So he got up there, and this is after we saw the footprint. I started going up there. As soon as I got around the log, through going under the briar, I almost lost my lunch. I was so sick, so ill, and I almost started doing that hyperventilating, right before you throw up. Again, I don't know if that's just me, where you're like, and it was just coming on strong. And the first thing I do is I'm like, Adam, start recording, because I didn't know what was happening right then and there, but it was weird. And as soon as he pulls out his phone and he starts recording, as fast as it came, it went, and I was 100% fine. So again, now you're talking about the woods, you're talking about Bigfoot, you're talking about lights. Now we're talking about little people. Now you're talking about, people say getting zapped from infrasound, which again, I don't know. I didn't hear anything. I guess that's why they call it infrasound. But whatever it was really caused me to bellow over, and it was weird. And after that, I was perfectly fine. But again, you were just saying, we were laughing at the prints, the little 3-inch prints, and they don't like that. Well, maybe they really don't like that. I don't know. It's intriguing. It's still kind of, like I said, it's kind of scary, because it's like, I think I'd rather see, a 10-foot, something that makes me feel dwarfed, than seeing something little walking on the ground. Hey, Jay, take me home. I'm like, yeah, I'll put you in a 10-gallon tank. Is that fine? Or 20-gallon? Is that what you want? No, I don't know. It's still kind of creepy.
You're talking about getting sick and stuff. I'll tell you, the first 3 times we went up to the Heightened Adventure, the first time we went up there was Memorial Day weekend. We were there for 3 days. The second day, myself and Craig went out to where the Heightened picture had been taken, and we were shooting some footage of him talking about the picture and pointing out details and stuff like that. And then we sat down and we started discussing theory and thoughts and stuff like that about it, and recorded this interview and stuff. And about halfway through that, I got really sick. And I went back to the base and I said, Craig, I got to take a nap or something. I don't feel good. So we went back and I ended up throwing up 3 times. Okay. Next month, me, my mom, and Luke went up to Hide and Adventure and we spent a weekend. My mom got sick. Didn't feel
Same
good.
thing.
Spent a day in the car. I don't believe she threw up. The
Yeah.
third time we went up there was in July. Me, my mom, and Derek went up there. Derek got sick.
Oh.
Since then, we've been good. Well, actually, I take that back. The last time we went up there was this past year, and we had a big camp out with a bunch of other people and stuff. And one of my other investigators, Barbara, she got sick. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's and again, it's sad for those that had to get sick and throw up, but it's fascinating and it's great to document, exactly where you're at, because then you think about it and we're thinking it's infrasound caused by a little person, by a Bigfoot, by a dog man, by ET. But what if these are the portals, these bubbles of portals opening up either around us that's causing us, because we can't as human beings accept that. I mean, again, just theory, but it's good, like you said, that you're documenting those exact things, because again, something happened with another investigator I went out with last year, and he was totally fine. His name's Brian. He's like 6'9". He's almost a Bigfoot himself. Sorry, Brian. He's used to that. But anyway, so we're out there, and all of a sudden, it was at night too. He was getting really seriously ill, and he was going over too. And this was just on a trail, and it wasn't over hot. He's a fireman, so he's used to the heat. It wasn't, too hot out, and he was gonna throw up. So what do I do? I pull up my phone with my red light, and I'm like, "You're gonna throw up?" And I'm following around. He's like, "Don't watch me." And I'm like, I'm trying to document this. He's kind of like not really finding it too humorous, because he was getting really sick. And we walked out of that trail area, and I usually set up a base camp out there with camping chairs and whatnot. And we just went, and he just sat down, and all of a sudden, within like 10 minutes or so, he was as good as gold. Like it never happened. So there is something to these, what your team experienced and you out there, the same with us. But again, now you say, what is it? Is it the lightning and the dog that we said in the last episode? To where you're getting sick, you're out in the woods, it's got to be a Bigfoot doing it. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be ET or a ghost. It could be many different things that we can't understand. But see, I'm documenting, you're documenting, and one day we'll all come together and still not have the answer.
Perfect. Can't wait. Yeah, and another thing I'll point out, since we're on the weird topic here of this, unfortunately, as I'm sure you know, Craig passed away.
Yeah.
And part of that, because of it was throat cancer, is what started it. It's not, he ended up with other stuff going through it, but that's what started this whole thing, in cancer in his lymph nodes. So we were really concerned, because then we started looking into this phenomenon of Bigfoot researchers and dying of cancer. And when you look, we actually we were at a convention with Charlie Raymond, who brought up a bunch of these researchers. And, well, this one passed away, this one passed away. And as he's talking, I'm Googling them and how they died. And a lot of them died of cancer.
Right.
So we went out and we took our radiation detectors and we took our EMF meters and stuff, and we scoured the Hide and Adventure, his house, the property, everywhere, to see if there was a correlation here, because he's out there every day, on this property.
Right.
And what we found was a very minute spike around areas that have had known Sasquatch activity there. The large stick structure, where his deer stand used to be, where the hiding picture was taken, and you didn't find this radiation or EMF anywhere else on the property aside from right in these areas.
Yeah.
And I
Wow.
don't know how to explain that. I mean, it wasn't like, like there's the radiation, there's danger levels or whatever. And I mean,
Hmm.
we're talking 0.001, 0.005. I mean, it was very small, but when
Hmm.
nowhere else on the property is having these fluctuations, you wonder if there's something to that, you know.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And that's great documentation that you're doing there. Those are one of the things that I have because I'm kind of I'm a solo investigator, if you will. And it's not that I don't collaborate with other people like
Mhm.
Tobias and Emily and Adam and other people doing the same like-mindedness, and I'm sure we will soon. Um, but like you were saying, having all these pieces of equipment would be great, and I'd love to just have a huge pallet just walking around so you could see what every EMF or radiation or whatever is, because that is very important to document. And kudos to you on that, because I've heard the same thing, but I don't really know anybody that's actually gone out and done the radiation as well at any of these places. So that's definitely something to definitely take note on, of these sightings. And you were saying a lot of these Bigfoot researchers. I'm like, well, maybe we shouldn't do this anymore.
Yeah, that's really
Stop,
what I was
stop,
wondering
stop while
there.
the
Yeah.
yeah, stop while the going's good. Because I feel I feel bad that happened, and but we got to be the legacy of these journeys of research, just like I want my kids to be. And when they were littler, they said, yeah, they will. And now one's 14 and one's 10. And they're like, if we have time, we'll go out there and be your legacy once you're gone. Like, come on, pull it together for pops. But basically it's for us, trying to do this documentation and having this data to give to tomorrow's researchers,
Mhm.
because you know what? I said, I want to make contact. I'll do whatever it takes, to do that, but it may not happen in my lifetime. And then you'll just be known for that guy that's been hiking in the woods looking for weird stuff, and he never really found his answer, and he's gone. Do you
Mhm.
want to have your life that way? I'm willing to do that, just because I need to know. I want the answers. So
Yeah. I have a question. So we were talking about you wanted to make contact and stuff. And I've recently been working on a new project that we're not ready to talk about too much yet. But um, I've been looking into more UFOs, and I've come across the CE5 protocol. Are you familiar with that?
yeah, me, Tobias, and Emily did it out in the kettle.
Okay. I was going to ask, have you tried to do that to Bigfoot?
Well, the thing is, when I went out there, that's kind of what I did.
Hang on. So, for people who aren't familiar with CE5,
Yes,
CE5 is Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind,
correct.
which Close Encounters would be like an experiencing an alien, like seeing one or seeing a craft or something. So, of the fifth kind is human initiated contact. So you go
Hmm.
out and you project, you see yourself on a planet, or in for our sake Wisconsin, and then you see yourself in the US, and then on North America, the world, and you project yourself farther and farther out until you get to a good distance, and then you say, hey, if anyone's out here, that it's safe for you to make contact. This is where I am. And then you go backwards and you come back in and you show them where you are and ask them to make a light flash in the sky and show you that you're there. So that's what
Right.
CE5 protocol is. So go ahead.
That's correct. No, that's correct. But now I always had a little problem with that. Not saying that I don't believe the extraterrestrials are out there, but because of and this is again for me, my own biblical background, I guess my own belief in praying is a form of meditation. If I'm
Hmm.
praying, to Jesus or to God, it's my telepathy, my praying towards that. So to be able to all of a sudden go, okay, well, God, I'm no longer going to pray to you. Now I'm going to meditate myself out to these ETs. Uh, that could be that dangerous thing that I was talking about in the last
Mm-hmm.
episode of investigating ghosts, of demonic or possession. And so when I went out there, I wasn't a skeptical, but it was almost like saying, Jay, play with this Ouija board. I ain't gonna touch that. But in a way, that's what it was. So I was kind of a participant observer more than Emily and Tobias, which was still really cool because I was able to document them as they did it. The sounds that they use are just phenomenal, to be able to get to this next level. But this will be in Finding J too.
Dun dun
I
dun.
was recording in infrared binoculars on a tripod, and the things that we caught after they were done, you know, is there something to calling that down or whatnot? But we got some really odd lights in this clearing that hung around us, and uh, again, I'm not Discovery Channel, the $1 million pieces of equipment. So you're settling on what you have, and it could be grainy at night, but it's definitely there. So there's some validation to what that is. And again, when they were kind of doing that to aliens per se, what is an alien? It's something that's not from here, it's foreign. So I'm out there in Bigfoot territory, and that's what I would do. And I'll back up to this next story right after this one, but I was kind of the observer participant that was more thinking of what was around us than above us, or that far out. Um, and that it was incredible to try. Um, and again, because of my belief. That's the one hard thing is the other people I go out with, everyone has their different beliefs or whatnot. And sometimes Jay doesn't want to play with the games that they bring. And I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings of saying, well, Jay, you're an investigator. Go out. You're supposed to try everything. I will try things to a limit. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that's just me. And I've got to trust my gut. And that's all I've got to do. Because 2 years prior to doing this CE5 experiment, I was out with my nephew who's in his 30s, and he wanted to try the CE5, but without all the steps to getting there, because he was more alien based and I was more Bigfoot cryptid based. And he said, well, let's just try it for like 10 minutes. I'm like, okay. He's like, we're just going to go back to back, and we're just not going to talk. And just, he's going to project his mind out wherever. And so I did, and I started using my own thoughts of just saying, are you out here with us? I started doing this, and I didn't get an answer. And I said, are you out there? And in my own head, I hear, yes. Okay, wait, did I just answer my own question? Then I'm like, again, I'm thinking, I'm trying to project out there. How many of you are around us? And the thought that came back to me is, we are many, which is weird because it's not like there's 5 of us here, Jay, or 2 of us. We are many. And I didn't know where this was really going. And I don't want to say I started getting panicked a little bit, but I was like very curious about this. And just before, I said we're going to do this for 10 minutes, on the 3-minute mark after we are many, a convoy of coyotes. I've never heard so many of them in my life. Were right down below us on the kettle. Just you could hear them coming. I mean, I understand they have all the different vocal cords, so it sounds like there's a gazillion of them, but it sounded like there was a gazillion of them. And all of a sudden, Ben snaps out of it a little bit. He's like, "Quiet, get your machete out, all your stuff. You're like, you don't want them to track you down." And nothing happened. They all went by us below the kettle, a lot of them for over like a minute. They just wouldn't stop. But it just made me think about CE5 versus that other experiment I did. And you were saying, have you ever done that to Bigfoot? So really, a long-winded answer is I have, and I think I got an answer. At least that's my gut feel.
Very interesting. I have a lot of thoughts on that now. To your coyote point, I have an interesting story similar to that, which happened at Burlington.
Okay.
So you're familiar with the EMF meter, you know, the little lights
Yep.
and stuff. And we made contact with what's said to be a like guardian of the forest or a spirit of the forest, right? And it would answer questions on the EMF meter. And we said, "Oh, thank you. We appreciate you, you know, communicating with us." We wrapped up the conversation, and we said, you know, we're gonna leave now. Thank you. And as soon as we did, there was a whole herd of freaking coyotes just went off, and it was so cool and so scary and so
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
because it was right on cue. You know, we appreciate you talking to us. Thank you for your time. You know, woo! Oh, it was
And
it
how
was
weird,
insane.
how weird is that? Just us connecting like this to be able to validate something so incredibly similar,
Mm-hmm.
that we were by each other. We didn't talk about it. We didn't share that information before, and yet here it is. So again, then where does the bottom line come? It's like I, it's like I hear these. I want to say that's what it is. And a lot of people were telling me with the coyotes, I did record an audio, which is actually in the beginning of Finding Jay, the first one. You'll hear the coyotes, and it, people are saying, well, that's probably bunch of Bigfoot that can mimic
Mm-hmm.
the sounds of coyotes, owls, all these other things. And I'm like, and again, you're just jumping to that gun of what it is. How is it that I heard we are many, and then that I call it the coyote convoy, where
Yeah,
it just wouldn't stop. So is that what I heard? That we are many? There they are.
maybe
Was
you
it a
were talking to the
coincidence?
coyotes.
I don't. Right? Exactly. Yeah. Somebody did say, when I did say, I don't really talk about some of these stories so much because they're there's no proof. It's my
Mm-hmm.
story. It's personal. But somebody did say, Jay, you're turning into Dr. Doolittle. You know that.
Uh-huh.
Then I would start talking to raccoons and they can speak back, but I don't know. Yeah.
I think this is a major oversight, I would say, of like the Bigfoot community and stuff, is that everyone talks, well, did you see one? Did you get one on thermal? Did you find the stick structures? Did you find the footprints, etc.? But let's just stop and talk about all the other stuff that happened out there.
Right.
Because I think
But
when we start having those conversations like we've had today, that we
yeah.
start to realize maybe there is more of this, that now we need to go ask more people, well, did you hear something in the woods and then a whole bunch of coyotes go off? Or, you know, have you seen 3-inch footprints in the woods? You know, and so on and so forth, of, you know, the balls of light is coming out more and more of people seeing that in the woods, you know.
Right.
I think that's something that, you know, we need to, as researchers, as investigators, as people interested in this topic,
Right.
we need to be focused more on the other stuff, you know.
Well, and that's 100%. There are so many closed-minded people that have the same like-minded of what we do, but just maybe in their field. No, it's a ghost. It's a dead person, and that's what it is. It's Patrick Swayze. It's Casper. I'm just saying that's
Mm-hmm.
what it is. They don't want to hear anything else about timescapes or multi-universe or parallel universes or anything like that. They're just sold on that. Same thing in the Bigfoot community. You're right. I'd be ousted from a lot of places talking like this because Bigfoot is just a flesh and blood primate we haven't caught up with, like the gorilla or the platypus. But there's too many weird things that don't correlate with just being a primate, to me.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm not an expert in this. People say, Jay, you've been doing this. No, there's been people doing it for 50 years and no closer to the answer than you or I. We can speculate, and everybody has their opinion, which is great because it's a free world to have the be able to share that. But um, like you were saying, this particular podcast should probably go down in a history book because Here's two people talking about things that have both happened to each one of us that we never shared with. So right there, that's more than just the one story. Now you've got the two.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've got to try to find that third, fourth, or fifth.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and like I said, we've talked before a little bit, prior to the
Yeah.
podcast, but I mean, we've
Right.
never dug into this. It's not like we correlated, and this is
Right.
just
Right.
talking, and this stuff is
Oh
come
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah. No, when we're talking, it never gets this in depth, and it doesn't get in this depth because we're not talking and rolling into the next one like this. This is
mm-hmm.
like kind of a good captive audience and interviewer, and we're talking, and these are the things that are kind of coming up. So I really think it's cool because I've never heard anybody else talk about those 3-inch footprints. That blows my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought I was losing it. So
somewhere between Upper Michigan and the Kettle, he lost his shoes. So I don't understand. I mean, that's a long walk. It's understandable. Socks too, apparently.
well,
so.
but and that's what I'm saying. But what if the what ifs are, what if these portals are opening up and it's literally walking from here to your front door, and you could be across the whole state like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think of even Bigfoot wise, and why the prints are there and they disappear. Where do they go? Do they jump to 100 feet to grab a tree and escape, leaving other prints? Do they sprout wings and fly away, or do they walk through a portal? Do they turn into a ball of energy? Can they travel lightning fast? We don't know, but the stories are there, both of them.
Well, we are almost out of time, so I want to cover one more thing here. I know you got to get going now pretty soon too. But I want to ask you on this, the ball energy thing. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with the Tag 7 program.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so again, this group of researchers, I believe it's the North American Wood Ape Conservancy, managed to supposedly tag, got a tracking device on what they believe is a Bigfoot. They've tracked it over 100-mile area, I believe, before the battery and the tracker finally died. Okay, so again, that's just for reference to this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we're talking about going through a portal, or if these things are going through portals and turning into balls of energy, did they take that tracker with them?
Right. Well, number one, and I've heard that too, it was like a little burr with a transmitter on it.
It's a cockle burr.
The thing, and the one thing that I was thinking about was, but how do they know 100% it was on there? Because I've heard that. I kind of looked it up too, and it's like I kind of want to see, at least that's my eyes want to say, all right, that's evidence to saying it really is being tracked. Because if it is an animal and it migrates, that tracker's going to just follow wherever it goes, whether it's a person, a Bigfoot, dogman, or a squirrel. I know squirrels are local or whatever, but that's the thing. You were saying, if it was, because I do believe Bigfoot exists, and that transmitter was on it and it transferred that far, did it take it with it? And I'd have to say yes, because I believe that Bigfoot is flesh and blood when it's here. Can it have more abilities? That's not paranormal, but supernatural abilities that we can't understand, because they're intelligent. They're using more of their brains of being able to open up portals, walking through. Who knows? But definitely, I believe that it could have definitely walked right through with the burr on it and just be where it's going to be 100 miles away. Why not? It would make sense.
I guess I didn't really think of it either when I was stating that question, but they never really, like when we think of GPS and tracking, you're able to map it and follow it and everything. But this was the older style tracking where they actually had to go out with the radar stick and kind of aim and
Right,
the
to
beep,
be able
beep,
to follow.
beep,
Yep.
beep, beep. So
Yep.
it's not like they followed this thing the whole time. So if it did teleport, transport, ball of energy, etc., they're only pinpointing where it is now, not where it was,
Where it is now.
and follow
Right.
it through the whole thing. Because otherwise, then you might be able to see this track of hiking for 10 miles and then disappearing
Boom.
and showing up on a GPS, 100 miles away or something. So I guess that's a fair point as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just look at it that way. So it's basically, that's, my bottom line of what I'm doing. People say, are you a Bigfooter, a Squatcher, a paranormal investigator, or ufologist? And I'm like, I'm a truth seeker. That's pretty much it. And I think that kind of comes down to what I do as truth seeking is a paraphysical. And it sounds like Paraphysical MD 101, Jay Bachochin. No, it's not that. It's basically what my interest is of trying to find these answers to all these different subjects. It's not just one. I always say, I don't put Bigfoot just in a box and ghosts in a box and UFOs in a box. My good friend D said you can always put Jack in a box, but can't put Bigfoot in a box. But it's basically, I like to put them all together and just have that open-mindedness of saying it could be anything. But I think it's more supernatural than paranormal for sure. At least that's my opinion anyway, for what it's worth.
Well, it's obviously worth something if we're talking today. So
yeah, good. Yeah, it definitely is. Love it.
Awesome. Well, I think that's a good place to leave it for this episode. And
Okay.
I feel like we could talk for another 4 hours because we haven't even gotten into. I have notes over here of things and stuff, and we haven't even got to half of that. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing you on June 4th in Menominee, Michigan, at the Bigfoot Paranormal Convention up there. And where else are you going to be again?
It's going to be stellar, huh? Well, so far in the fall, it'll be Van Meter and the other place that I have to check my website.
Okay.
I apologize too, because it's like I put those in as my calendar dates, but then I don't think about them because they're set up a year in advance. And I apologize for anybody who set that up that I'm not promoting it. But things come up in the summer. I know next year I'll be back down speaking at the PA Bigfoot Camping Adventure in Fayette County, Pennsylvania, which is right by Chestnut Ridge. Oh, love it down there. If I wasn't in the kettle, I would be Chestnut Ridge all the way. Other than that, I do keep my website updated, so you can check that out. I am constantly either posting pictures of field work. There's an evidence page, but only lets you go so far, because I only post X amount on there. But it's just, there's even a report button that if anybody has any questions or they want to report something weird, doesn't have to be Bigfoot or Dogman or Ghost, they can just pop it in there to contact me, or you can find me on Facebook, a couple pages there, and TikTok, because TikTok's cool.
So what's your website?
It is, it's just jaybachochin.com.
I can't spell.
Yeah, it's a long last name.
I also can't spell. Anyway, I was going to pull up and see where your other location was that you were going to be.
I wonder if I can do that while you're talking.
Yeah, so we are going to have you out there on June 4th, and you're going to have a booth and everything. And we are going to do a panel with our other guest speakers who will be coming up on our podcast here in a couple weeks. We are going to have, next week will be Sheetan Noor will be on the podcast. And then Nash Hoover will be speaking on our podcast. And then finally, on May 30th, we are honored to have Ken Gerhard on our podcast. So you'll get to hear from all the speakers, as well as Mary Sutherland, who was on our podcast a couple weeks ago, actually. So she was just on there. And Allison Jornlin, who was on our podcast a couple weeks before that. So we've had all the speakers,
awesome.
and hopefully you guys have listened.
I'm looking forward to at least meeting you in person. I know we've talked and everything, and but it's going to be a good time. I can already sense it. I'm not psychic, but I can sense it's going to be a great time.
So did you find that date?
No, I didn't.
I was trying to run for you there.
I know you were. I was actually I'm like, I got to it and then it crept out on me.
Oh, man.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
But
We
you
will.
know what? Hey, it's okay. Go to my website after watching this and seeing the delays of this comedy we're having here right now. But we will. I'll make sure it's all updated for everyone to see. But other than that, you know, I like to keep. I'm what's keeping me going full time. Well, besides my daytime job that pays the bills, you know, and also being a family man, trying to, you know, be there for the family. I am still creating myself, writing and editing, directing my next documentary, which I have a August um, due date. So that's keeping me really busy, and I still want to get out in the woods. I love being out there. So I'm juggling a lot, but so you know, that's how come it was like coming in June. I'm like, you know what, I'm going to be there. You know, I can make all the excuses and say I've got so much to do, but I'm like, you know, I want to see you guys, which is awesome.
Definitely. And
Yeah,
we should have some fun planned with me, you, and Ken and Nash, and so
yeah.
yeah,
Oh, definitely.
we're
Be a
gonna
good time.
we're gonna get together and do some fun stuff for caps and some other stuff. So hopefully our viewers and stuff will get to see all that. And yeah,
Absolutely.
awesome.
Okay.
All right, man. Well, thanks for being on the show. I will make sure I put all the links once we find them in the show notes and everything for everyone to click on and follow. And make sure you go quiet. Make sure you go over to Amazon Prime and check out Finding Jay. And if you're like a lot of the people out there that actually want a hard copy of the episodes, like myself, because like he said, if it ever goes offline or internet's down or something, you can't watch it, stop on out to the Marinette Menomoniee Bigfoot Convention and pick up a copy of it on Blu-ray. And you also have them on your website for sale.
Yep.
And
I do have a website, but I'll tell you what, they're $20 on the website, but you come up to this event, I'm going to cut that in half. $10.
Wow.
You know what? You can't beat that with the work. You know, I actually hold this and say, you know, this is a great effort. My first effort, and I'm setting the bar higher for the second one. Great first effort. And, you know, it's there. So I will, I definitely have some good amount of limited copies. You know, for any reason, just come up, get one of those. It's not going to make me rich. I would just like to pass it on to you or give it to someone for a gift too.
Definitely. And you will autograph those as well, correct?
If somebody asks, I will. I'm still very kind of humble and weird about it when somebody says, "Can you sign it?" Because I still always come down to saying, "Look, I'm just Jay." People don't like when I say that, but you know, I don't know if you could be humble by saying you're humble, but I like to keep, I like to keep on the ground. My wife doesn't think so when I get messages and everything for everyone like, your head's getting too big, Jay. And it's like, no, it's fine. I'm still here. We're still good. But yes, I'll sign them for you if you'd like them signed.
Attaboy. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So $10 copies of your Blu-ray at the event, and otherwise they can find it if they can't make it on your website and Amazon, I assume.
Yep. And that's where it is too. I'll also have some vinyl stickers for your automobiles of all different kinds of cryptids. Dogman, Bigfoot, Mothman, Van Meter Visitor. Absolutely.
Ooh, I don't have one of those. I was just going to say, anybody that's seen me, the back of our car, our van, and the trailer are plastered in stickers, because I like to say that if you see these things going down the road and you've seen any of these, who are you going to talk to? That's me.
Exactly.
That's me.
Yep,
So I do not have a Van Meter Visitor sticker, so I will have to pick up one.
I will save one for you.
Just one? Okay. Well, I have three vehicles, so I'm going to need three.
Oh, well, then I'll save you three. Don't
awesome.
Worry.
Awesome.
I'll save them there for you. But
all right.
Yep. So that's it. Then come up, meet me. I'd love to talk to anybody that comes up. So, parody stories.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the last two episodes with Jay. Again, he will be up in Upper Michigan at the Marinette Menomoniee Bigfoot Convention on June 4th. You can get all the information at wisconsincaps.com or check the show notes for a link to get tickets right there on our show notes. Until next time, I'm Barnaby.
I'm Jay Bachochin.
And we'll see you next time, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Whispers from the Dark. To find out more about cryptids, anomalies, and the Paranormal Society, visit us at our website at wisconsincaps.com. That's wisconsincaps.com. There you can find links to all of our social media: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and our Patreon. You will see links to our online store as well, where you can get t-shirts, DVDs, and more. If you click on the public events page, you can find out where you can meet us in person and all the public events we have coming up. If you enjoy our podcast or our YouTube shows, please consider becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/WisconsinCaps. There you can find behind-the-scenes pictures and videos from all of our media, as well as bonus footage and evidence that we have collected. If you have encountered something you can't explain, we want to hear from you. Visit our website and click on Submit a Report on our main screen. You can choose to leave your contact information or simply remain anonymous. You can also reach us via email at wisconsincaps@gmail.com. If you would like to be a guest on our show, please contact us on our Whispers from the Dark podcast page on Facebook, or send us an email at wisconsincaps.com. Remember to like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen or watch or find us.